Joining us now is defense analyst Ivan Eland. He's here to talk more about that deadly raid in Belgium. He's also a fellow and director at the research and educational think tank, the Independent Institute. Ivan, thanks for coming in. Let me talk to you about the timing. We saw an arrest in Bulgaria. Of course, they're not saying that any of this stuff is linked, but they have that arrest in Bulgaria. We see these raids in Belgium. Apparently, they're still ongoing. There was a gentleman arrested in the state of Ohio here in the United States who was concocting a plot, perhaps, to blow up things at the Capitol. The reason I bring up all of these, it just seems like the authorities in different countries striking rather quickly. Do you see this as kind of a game changer in how authorities, if they've got something actionable, they're just going to take action now? I mean, how are things changing?
Well, I think they are more prone to take quick action. In the case of, I think they're very different types of things. In the United States, I think this was a kid, a high school kid. I don't think he knew what he was doing at all. Of course, in the Paris attacks and in this Belgium raid, you're dealing with people who at least have had training. And in the Belgium, this may have been directed by ISIS, fighters going to Syria and then coming back. So there's a continuum, everything from, the 9/11 style direct operational control to people who are inspired, and it's a lone wolf at home who's just cooking up the plot in his backyard. So there's a continuum of these things.
Are we likely to see more raids, do you think, in the coming days?
Well, there may be, because this, as they do an investigation, the link widens out. But of course, we don't know if the Paris and the Belgian raids are linked. One guy, there seems to be an arms dealer that may be related to the guy who killed the hostages at the Jewish grocery store, and also this raid in Belgium. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're coordinated attacks.
What are we to read into this? And again, everything's preliminary. But if ISIS is involved, I mean, does this say that perhaps the boundaries have changed? It's not just Iraq, Syria, that they're going to take the fight to the west?
Well, I think they'll try. I think the U.S. has a bit of a better situation there. We're farther away from we don't have the radicalized Muslim population, so we have a lot fewer fighters. There's 150 people, U.S. citizens, that went to Syria, but only 12 of them fought for jihadist groups, and some of those have been killed. Europe has 3,000 people who went to Syria. Now, not all those may be terrorists, but they have a much larger problem there for several reasons. But if the preliminary indications are that they were trying to hit a U.S. embassy in Brussels, perhaps. We don't know that for sure yet, but if that's the case, they could hit U.S. targets. And a lot of these, the one thing they have in common, I think, is all these countries are linked by their actions of being in the intervention in Iraq and Syria.
You kind of went the whole gambit as you were talking about this young man in Ohio and the lone wolves. We've seen cases in Sydney, Australia, Ottawa, London. And then, of course, this may be an actual cell or a group involved. My question to you is, what's more concerning? Is it the homegrown terrorists? Is it the lone wolves? Is it perhaps a cell like this developing? Or is it just all of it?
Well, I think these orchestrated, planned, these are special forces type people. You would call them special forces of the terrorists on 9/11, those types of things. Perhaps this Belgium thing is the same way. But lone wolves, they don't kill as many people. They're probably not as dangerous, but they're also harder to detect as well. So, I would say the orchestrated attack by organized groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS are the most severe. But I wouldn't overstate the ISIS threat. They are not a global terror network like Al-Qaeda, and Al-Qaeda has much better bomb-making capability. You may see some ISIS fighters bleed back into Europe, and of course they could get on a plane and come to the U.S., but they need a radicalized help here, and we don't have as many radicalized people from the Muslim world in the United States. So I think we always have to ask, since I'm here in the United States, what's the threat to the United States? And I think it's considerably lower than the threat in Europe.
Ivan Eland, thanks so much for coming in and offering your analysis. Appreciate it.